All right. Hi, my name's Andrew, and today I'm delighted to have Asia, Reagan, and Aaron, as well as Katrina and Dean. Thank you for joining us today on this new topic that how to start and grow your business in the middle of a pandemic. Asia.
Hey, so I really wanted to start talking about this topic. My name's Asia. I am the founder and CEO of the lifestyle brand, The Uncommon Life. And I am originally from Atlanta, but I live in Peoria now. I've been here for a couple years now. And so with everything that's going on right now, I just recently purchased a studio and I was ready to get started and move forward and really open up a retail space. And then we have the shelter in place. And so it kind of put a hiccup in some of the plans that I've had and a few other people on have had. So I wanted to just talk about, what that looks like for people. You're excited, you start a business, you're wanting to, bring something great to the marketplace. And then things change, things shift quickly. And so I think it's a valuable conversation just to give people, number one, encouragement, but also give strategy to what it looks like starting a business and then just starting as we navigate this new normal.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Reagan, how about you? Maybe you can do a quick introduction and then after that, we'll pass it on to Aaron.
Yes, I am. My name's Reagan Leslie. I am the creative director of Leslie Tyler Design. So we do interior design services for our clients, and we just had our first birthday. So brand spanking new, and how we've adapted. We were originally, and which I always thought we were going to be very one-to-one. Personable with our clients, and being, acknowledging social distancing, we've had to adapt to that and start servicing our clients virtually, which was something that I was really against previously. But as a last resort, it's given us a means to still stay connected to our clients. So navigating this pandemic, I think overall I've owned a business before, but this is obviously a very new business, has actually made me better. So I'm navigating it and learning a lot these last few weeks.
I am Dr. Aaron Houlihan. I own Abundant Life Chiropractic. The thing that makes me a different kind of chiropractor is I only do house calls, which has actually helped my business grow during this pandemic, because I was already doing a one-to-one service coming to you. So during this pandemic, I've been growing by referrals by people who have seen results quickly and are enjoying having that concierge service of having someone come to you and take care of you. So I feel really blessed. So I'm trying to share the love with other small businesses. I see patients in both Peoria and DeKalb. So trying to shed some light on some other great small businesses to help spread the love around.
Awesome. So we're talking about growing and starting and growing. So Asia, you're starting. Reagan, you're growing, and Aaron, you're also growing. I want to talk a little bit about, identifying challenges in either the starting or the growing. Who would like to share?
I can start. For me, the starting it looks a little bit differently. So originally my platform was completely online. I sold clothes online. I did everything online, a blog, everything. The transition is moving from an online space, which I was moving to more of a physical location, because a lot of the events that I do require people to be in the same space. And so I wanted to design and create a space where people felt at home, people felt comfortable. And then when the pandemic came, it's just like, how do we shift back to primarily being online while keeping the excitement of the events and the excitement of connection and the excitement of coming together. So that has been something that I've been trying to navigate in addition to just overall managing life. Because I think that's a part of, starting a business or running the business is just where does the business fit now that we have all of these other legs that we have to manage while being quarantined.
One thing that I've found, I guess, is a not challenge per se, but just something new that I'm learning how to navigate is cutting through the noise, because I think that right now we're very limited on the way we can connect with people. Obviously, it is through a virtual digital platform. So while it's good for, I guess, essentially being able to reach a wider audience, which is something we're kind of discovering. We originally were very focused on a local, physical demographic, and now kind of the world is ours for the taking. But I think the thing is that there's so many people talking on those platforms as well that what maybe was effective beforehand at grabbing somebody's attention still has to be, reinvented and built upon. So, like I said, I feel like we're all going to come out with an MBA of marketing, but that strategy I feel like I've done a crash course in trying to learn everything, because it's essential for our survival right now. It's not like I like this to work. It has to work, and it has to work on this platform or through this, means. So that's been something that, but I've seen a lot of creative growth in that too. I think people, like, when they're pressured, especially I think business owners, when we feel, or not feel, but when reality is what it is, we find creative ways of coming and doing things. So that's something that I feel like a lot of people have grown a lot in their business and what they've offered and what they're able to communicate. So that's my little tidbit.
Aaron, what about you?
I feel like this is an opportunity for all of us to pivot. I know you love that word, Andrew. Honestly, it is a pivotal moment for all of us to learn, have these obstacles thrown at us to be a better business owner and figure out how to conquer the market in a different way. So,
yeah. So Reagan, you brought up a good point. Aaron, you also brought up a good point. So Reagan, you talked about cutting through the noise, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about. Yes, there's a lot of noise, but the other side, and if I can reshift and reframe that, cutting through the noise, that's one way. But how well do you know your tribe? How well do you know the people that you're serving, right? And Aaron will tell you about the relentless obsession, if we can call it that, on focusing quite specifically on who are your customers? What value are you bringing to them? And that's probably a key piece on that. And to build on Aaron's point with pivoting, like what Asia was saying, hey, I was online, now I'm offline, and now I am trying to get back to the online space. Maybe there's a mixture of both. At some point when we do open up, how can we reach a broader audience online where they can feel a sense of belonging and not necessarily participate in person, and maybe at some point they might. But what can we do between now and the time we reopen to start experimenting and testing? What kind of experiments are you running? You may not call it an experiment, but I'm curious to hear what are you guys doing right now to test any sort of assumptions that you're doing.
Well, one thing I've started doing, and it's just been a way to honestly connect with people in my industry, is starting to do like a live. I never really did live before. I don't really consider myself an influencer, but we're on social media. But I started just connecting with people, obviously in a much more broad sort of community sense. And it's been really a great way to start a conversation that I can only assume will continue. I've made some great connections, learned some stuff, brought more valuable content to people that might not necessarily get that from just, a random picture here and there. So it's honestly, it's one of those things kind of, I wouldn't say out of boredom, but more of just out of, hey, like, let's try this. Most people are at home and able to hop on, for 15 minutes. So that's been a fun just thing. And also, like I said, the digital platform and being able to service, maybe not as in depth as I, would obviously prefer per project, but also make that connection with somebody that might be, on the other side of the country where that just wasn't even on my radar before. So those have been fun. Those have been fun. And I hope to, like I said, continue doing those even after we open back up. So
it sounds like you've discovered new opportunities by trying something new.
Yeah, essentially. Just let's see. I think when you get tired of the mundane, day to day, you wake up, you're at home, you go to sleep, you're just kind of in this, cylindrical cycle. It's like, let's throw this in and see. And, worst case, I feel like right now, though, we're all kind of given a pass. Like, we're given the right. And I think that it's important that we know that it's okay to be messy. It's okay to try something. It's okay to fail at something, because those are things that we've learned and, will be better. But I think that we all say it. And I think it is very difficult to actually be in that state and at peace at the same time. So for me as a business owner, there's, other parts of my business that really were like, I needed to sever. I needed to let go of them. They were not servicing me. But I, have it in my head that if I give up, then I'm being weak and I'm not, pushing through, and I need to do that. So I think this, at least, time has given us all permission to, if something isn't working, let it go, and it's okay. Because I feel like even if you went back and, the history books, it's like, well, during that global pandemic, I ended up closing this business. They're like, okay, that's fair. Nobody's going to hold you, but then also trying something, and it might look messy, it might look crazy, and it's okay. And you might do it one day and then like, I'm never going to do that again. And it's okay. So I just love this, I guess, feeling of having grace with ourselves a little bit, which I think is what we need to be doing all along. But obviously, sometimes it takes something catastrophic to make that happen.
Yeah, and to build on that a little bit, it's the realization that it's okay, right? It's okay to be, like Asia was saying, we have families to take care of. We have all these other things going on in our lives that are now being upended. So from a mental health space, emotional and psychological issues that we're facing, we're having to transition into this whole new way of doing things. Asia and Aaron, love to hear your thoughts in terms of, above and beyond the experiments that you're doing. How are you dealing with the mental health stuff?
For me, I am somebody who goes. So the challenge for me is actually getting more reflective and really sitting down and giving myself that grace that Reagan was talking about. Because I have a small business, but it's not my primary source of income. I also sell insurance, so I have a full-time job, as well as children. It's, I think, trying to give myself permission to take my time, permission to adjust to the new normal, and really figure out what that looks like for me long term. Because I think one strategy is just to throw a whole bunch of stuff at the wall. And that's not a bad strategy if that, if that works for you, and if that's something that you have the energy and the capacity to do right now. But I think another strategy specifically for me is really the reflection. How can I bring value, in a place like Reagan was saying, that is so noisy? It's so many people online. We're almost even more busy being at home than we are when we have to actually physically go places, because it's kind of no excuse. Like, what else do you have to do? Like, you have nothing else to do at this point but things, virtually. And so I think for me, I've been really working on my intention and really working on how can I serve the greater good? How can I serve the greatest good, with my business? And what does that look like? What is going to really build a value, not necessarily just creating content, because we can create tons of things and it doesn't resonate with people. But what is going to really move the people forward? What is really going to engage my core? And what does that look like? So for me, it's been a lot of reflection. It's been, how can I do things differently? Because I've done tons of stuff online. And what does it look like as far as bringing people together? Because that's the ultimate goal, if that makes sense.
So what I've heard is, the out of the reflection comes a significant level of focus, intention, and you're really going down to make the biggest impact based on that. Erin, what about you?
For me, the mental health self-care side has been mostly figuring out what I want and what I want to do during this time. So I've been trying to read several different books at the same time, just to get different ideas and different perspectives, and unplugging, because there is a lot going on, a lot of TV, a lot of social media. So just trying to unplug and do something outside. I have a big house with a lot of gardens now in DeKalb. So I've been trying to do a lot of taming gardens and being outside and getting some sunshine and just enjoying the quiet. But also, on the flip side, trying to spend time with family and friends virtually or in person, and just trying to stay positive and upbeat and as healthy as I can, physically and mentally.
Awesome. So I want to talk a little bit more about, Aaron, your business, because it involves adjusting people, chiropractic, and that's an in-person thing. I'm curious, can you share a little bit more about how you're protecting yourself, and how you're taking steps to protect the people that you serve? Primarily because from a practical perspective, I think that's so important. And really, while we want to talk about strategically how to start and grow a business in the pandemic, one of the other things we want to also equip others is to, share about like, how can we take steps to protect ourselves? As you know, May 1st tomorrow, 2 days from now, 2 days from now on Friday, everybody will have to start wearing masks and when we get out in public and stuff like that. So maybe you can share a little bit of the practical side as well.
So for me, protecting my patients is high on my priorities. And so I sanitize every inch of my table as soon as I arrive to your house. And then as we're talking about any changes or any new physical complaints that you have, the table's drying, which is what it has to do. It has to air dry to be able to kill all the germs on the surface. And then at the end of the appointment, again, I wipe everything down before I take the table with me and put it in my car. So there's those precautions. I also have gloves and a mask that I bring with me to the appointments. I don't typically wear them unless someone's telling me that they're exhibiting cold-like, allergy-like, or flu-like symptoms. Then I 100% wear them. I've been tapping into a new market of only Spanish-speaking people. And so I do have someone who's been going with me to translate. And she also has the same things. We use a lot of hand sanitizer. I've been making my own hand sanitizer with essential oils and rubbing alcohol. So we use a lot of that. And then just being at home, to keep myself healthy. Early when everything started happening, I did have a cold. And so making sure that I was having enough vitamin C, enough vitamin D, elderberry, because that's really potent and really strong antibacterial and antiviral. Also silver psyllin, which is a natural antibiotic. It's a liquid with colloidal silver in it, and you just drink that as a natural antibiotic. And just taking, that time for me, that quiet, that rest that my body needs.
So it sounds like, in as much as we want to start a business and grow the business in the pandemic, it also starts with taking care of ourselves, right? And moving along from that also is the idea of translating this taking care of ourselves to taking care of our customers. So Aaron, you started talking about taking care of our customers, moving from a, transactional, oh, here's what I'm doing, but here for the well-being of the customers, it's not just anymore transactional in the work that we're doing, but it's moving to a relational model of like really looking at the well-being of how can we position our business and our services and our products to be in that space. Reagan, Asia, what are your thoughts?
That, like you said, the relational, before we really just focused on, like, I'd hate to say it, but pretty, as opposed to functional. So we've been more focused on the function of a space and what it's providing for people right now, because we're at home. So I personally find visually, appealing spaces help, but more importantly, when your dining room has to serve as, your conference room, your dining room, your schoolhouse, like it is more about how to make sure that our homes are able to keep up with the recent demand. So just kind of like our marketing message in the way in which we speak about spaces has shifted slightly. Like I said, it's less about just we specialize in historical homes. So a lot of what we focused on before was kind of being able to retain, the architecture of your home and whatnot. And those things are still important. But right now, I think that people are really just like, okay, but, I've got 5 kids at home. I have a full-time job. My husband has a full-time job, and we have to do homeschooling. And this is never going to end. How do I make all of this, harmonize? So that's changed slightly, but I think it's for the better. Quite frankly, I think that's servicing a more of a pain or need from our clients than we were aware of before.
For me, it's a lot of what I do is really work with women and helping them to create the lifestyle that they want. And so for me, this is like almost prime time because a lot of times we go outwardly to create what we want. We get the newest clothes, we, get the newest lip gloss, we go out to dinner, we go out to drinks. I'm a fan of all of those things. But I think this space has challenged us to really look at our lives and look at the life that we've created and the life that we have. Just because how can we change? Me, I'm a mother, I have 4 children. So how do I create that sacred space for myself so that in the midst of a pandemic, I'm not only serving my job, serving my business, serving my life, but also serving my family and then ultimately serving myself. So I think for me, it's going to be really digging in to my community and seeing what it is now that we have been at home isolated with our family and community. What is it that you need? What is it that you've been feeling? How have you been navigating? And then let's create a plan around that. Let's create some space around that. Because it's easy when we have a full to-do list. Johnny has soccer, this one has ballet, and we just have to come home for dinner and then everybody's in the bed. And it's an uncomfortable conversation to have with people. But I think now people are really assessing, like, oh my goodness, what is my life? What am I doing? What is it that I want to create? So I think for me, it's really, having those authentic conversations and really finding the women and speaking to the women to how we can make sure that once we leave this time, because life is going to change, but we're going to get back to some sort of normalcy. What is it that you want? What is it that you want to accomplish? And so for me, that's what I've been reflecting on.
And again, this comes back to my relentless obsession of understanding your customer, right? Like it's so much about and this is a great opportunity, like you say, obviously the pandemic is this big Staples reset button for everybody. It just reset the entire world. And so everybody is now a startup because the rules have significantly changed. So really, Asia, great point. And so from a practical perspective, if you're starting a business and growing your business, you need to realize that there are new opportunities, and like what Reagan shared earlier, just experiment and explore, right? But not just in and of itself to experiment and explore and have fun with it, but what do you want to see happen at the end, right? So in Reagan's case, she wanted to, stuff wasn't moving forward for her on one part of the business, so she tried something else. But that something else has to have an end. Same thing with you, Asia, the stuff that you were doing, we're realizing this is a time of significant introspection, right? A reflection about like, what the heck am I doing with my one very precious and valuable life? In fact, there was a class at Harvard where this professor will come in, and the first thing in their business class they're asked is, what are you doing with your one precious and valuable life, right? What sort of impact are you making? And yes, business requires selling. Yes, business requires customers. But at the end of the day, why have you started a business? How is that aligned to the life that you want to shape and live? And how can you impact and serve the communities and the people? Yes, they pay you money, but money is a reflection of time earned, right? Or time lost, that you're exchanging that value proposition. And to your point, Reagan, there's so much noise, there's so much grabbing of attention now. And I think if you're going to be starting a business now, you need to be really focused. There is no space for the zombie business. Aaron would have heard this before, the zombie business of never quite succeeding, right? It's just like life support. Or you're heading towards some level of terminal velocity where your business is growing, or you're experimenting and you're not finding success. So there's two parts. The first part, you're never failing. You're only failing if you give up. And so you're either succeeding or you're learning, right? So you're succeeding or you're learning, right? Because then you pivot to your next point and you're trying a new experiment. What experiments are you running, Aaron? You're saying that you were, trying to help other small businesses grow where you live and work in the region. What else are you doing?
Like I said, I'm trying a new market that kind of just fell into my lap. It was not anything I was looking for, which I think is pretty perfect. Where I am helping people who only speak Spanish and who might not get a great level of care from like a walk-in clinic or some kind of thing. So that's something new that I'm trying. and trying to just connect with other small business owners, because as you know, Andrew, small business owners are one of my target markets. So just trying to keep connections and keep friendships growing and evolving while social distancing.
Yeah, so you should definitely connect with the Greater Peoria Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, right? You could probably be one of their upcoming speakers. So definitely something to consider, even as you reach out to the Hispanic community, because I think, like you say, they're underserved in so many ways, right? And you're coming in to provide value that is relevant to them, especially more so now. What are the thoughts, Reagan, Asia, in terms of we're about another 15 minutes. Is there a particular direction you want to focus on?
I think for me, it's just how to embrace this new normal. I know we talked about several different strategies, several different things, but I'm struggling. If you know anything about me, you know that I tell the truth, and I usually say how I feel. So no, I think it's important, but I think this is a great time for connection. I feel like it's a great time to really get to the heart of people and really get to what people need and what people want. So I think it's a good time, as for a small business, to really tap into their customer and really get a strategy for moving forward, because people are desperate to connect right now. Building on the point that Reagan said earlier, there's a lot of noise, but the reason why there's a lot of noise is because people are desperate to connect. They're like confined to four walls, and they're not really, they don't know what it looks like and what to do. And so I think it's a great opportunity. And I think finding new ways to connect, the lives that Reagan was talking about, and just providing value. I think this is a great time, not just to say, as a business, what can you do for me, but what can I do for you? How can I serve you in this time, so that we can actually build that relationship forward, so that we can really get to know each other and really provide the service that you actually need. Does that answer your question?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I think Asia, hit it on the head. I think, and I'm a creative, so I'm always going to take you to like the creative part. But I think that if you think about any, I don't know, let's say Beyonce, for instance, okay, a lot of the amazing work that comes from that is there's a time of being shut away, if you will. So I know writers sometimes do this. Obviously, your singers and all of those, but like they will basically shut themselves away. And it's a lot about reflection and honing your skill set. So even if it's not a creative, experiment, if you will, I know I've grown tremendously creatively. And I keep saying that I've been able to focus on it. A lot of times when you're running here and there and doing all of those things, you don't. But I think being at home and being with yourself and being still sometimes is the best medicine. And it's the medicine I think we run from the most. So I think being forced to do that will really empower all of us to be better. I've been in the Peoria small business community here for like a year. So not an extreme amount of time, but enough to know that the people in Peoria, and I always believed that we were great at, just fostering that small business support system. But I think seeing so many of those businesses succeeding through this time, I think there was a statistic that came out in the beginning that like 80% of small businesses would fail during this economic time. But I think that at least for the business owners that are out there and trying, I feel like they're succeeding. And so for me, I feel like we're going to come out of this so much better than when we went in. But like Asia said, it's allowing yourself that patience and that time that, we think, we're going to be extended for another month. And how long will this end? But I think all of us, are, I think, in our 30s, and we can all say that, 2 months out of our entire life, it's going to be like, a blink of the eye. So I feel like instead of getting to, okay, well, let's get reopened, really, kind of accepting this as a gift, and a time that we don't have to make excuses for not going somewhere. We don't have to make excuses for kind of turning inward. So use that for our benefit. But like I said, I'm excited. I joke with my husband all the time that it took a global pandemic, but I think it's sometimes that catastrophic catalyst, like that you never, wanted to happen. You thought it was the end of the world, is actually the best thing. And like I said, being only 1 year in, I think we were really kind of looking for our target, looking for our message, trying to define that anyways. And this is kind of just put a lot of pressure to do it even quicker. And we've, like I said, because of survival mode, we've, done a lot of things that I don't think we would have otherwise, in terms of growth and development. So.
Thank you for sharing that. So coming back to Asia's point about connection, that's such a huge piece. We're all struggling. And I don't know if you've heard of anybody mention the 5 stages of grief. We are going through that, right? Like we're going through a grieving process, and a grieving process of what was normal for us. Work is disrupted, family life is disrupted, and probably the family life piece, the non-work piece, is probably the most challenging piece, because your routine, your daily routine, you're suddenly overnight, probably almost overnight, 24 hours was, from the time the announcement happened on the Friday to the Saturday, quite literally overnight, everybody had to scramble and be like, okay, we're not going to work today. What is this now like, right? Like, and that just completely changes the way we think about our routines, how our families are going to adapt, how our kids are going to adapt, how our customers are going to adapt, and we're grieving that process. And as you progress over those 5 stages of grief, you need to allow yourself space, and that's where the reflection and introspection comes in. But I also want to introduce the 6th stage of grief, which is to find meaning. And some of you have already started getting to that stage of, allowing yourself to progress through that continuum, and to get to the 6th stage, which is, how can I make sense of this madness? How can I make sense and find meaning in the midst of this global pandemic, in the midst of what that means for my life, for my family, for my business, and how can I emerge stronger? And to your point, Reagan, at least from my perspective, what I'm hearing is the keyword of transformation. So while you were speaking earlier, Reagan, I was thinking about the butterfly, right? The butterfly starts as a caterpillar. It goes through a process of metamorphosis, and that takes time. It's not an easy time, but at the same time, it is definitely a time to transform into this next stage, which is, hey, why are we here? Who can we impact, and how can we reach them? And so that's really the ongoing development of what that is really, I think. So yeah, I want to thank you so much for this time. We have roughly about another 5 minutes left. Any closing thoughts, Aaron? We'll go Aaron, Asia, and then Reagan.
Meetings like this are crucial to continuing the social ties and keeping ourselves sane as we try to stay away from people as much as we can with the social distancing, but also to continue the roller coaster of growing and developing the momentum to keep your business going as we continue to build and grow our businesses.
I think if I had anything to say, it would just be do your best. I feel like sometimes we're already in a high stress situation, regardless of your living situation, or even if, you're working or whatever, starting a business. I say just do your best. Like, what is the best you can do today to move yourself forward? Is that creating an email? Is that submitting for your LLC? Is that, doing some research on how you can start to market online? I think it's not a rush. It's not something that you have to do overnight. Obviously, money is a thing and we need to produce revenue. But I think it's also important to be realistic and also give yourself grace in the process, because you will get there. You will get to where you need to be, but just make sure that you get there in one piece and fully, and you're able to really produce something that is worth producing.
I want to follow that up. That was awesome. But yes, kind of to piggyback off of that, I just and I go through kind of my ups and downs. I started this morning, crying and I'm tired of trying. But I think you just have to remember all the amazing things that you've learned how to do. I think about just my 2-year-old daughter, how she basically came in, to the world, can't you do anything. And now, only 2 years later, she's walking and talking and, feeding herself and just all of these things that, we've done hard things before. This is just like that, I think in the midst, there's so many things, I guess, that I remember, even being high schooler. Oh, this is this crazy, my life, and how will I ever, and now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such a silly kid. So I think that, in the midst of it, it might seem like that huge mountain. But you focus on the things that you're learning, focus on your growth, focus on the positive, what the world and universe is offering you right now, what it's giving you instead of what it's taking from you. This, like I said, will just be kind of one of those many stories that we'll tell our kids, or our grandkids, depending on how long it lasts. But yeah, like I said, we've done hard things before and we'll keep doing them. And that's life. So that's it.
Awesome, thank you. And so I just want to address really the goal of the fireside chat that I've reached out to Asia, and is specifically for this purpose, to give voice to business owners, to give a platform for them to share and engage, and to even reach out to the broader community to say, hey, you're not alone. You're feeling the same things we do, and we bleed the same color, right? Because everybody feels like what they're going through is for them only. But guess what? It is not, right? And so that's really why we're doing what we're doing here with the fireside chat. Another thing to also potentially something to consider is to keep a journal of your successes, right? A portfolio, if you will, of like, hey, I did this. Remember that time when, it's a list of all your success stories over the years, right? And we're made to grow. We're made to exceed our own expectations. So